Did you know that there are more official manuscripts proving the existence of Jesus Christ than Genghis Khan, Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great, and Plato combined? Now, before we get into that, hey guys, welcome back to the Wise Table Podcast. I'm your host, Shaylee Parker. Happy Friday. Super glad to have you guys back. Really appreciate you tuning in today. So, yeah, I won't leave you hanging too long on that hook line there. This is crazy. I learned this week. Really, really fresh on the mind. And I was like, oh, you guys need to hear this. So can confirm, did do the research as always. But yeah, Genghis Khan had less than 10 manuscripts. There's not really an exact number that I could find, but less than 10. Julius Caesar had roughly 10. Alexander the Great had 12. Plato had 210. And Jesus Christ had 25,000 manuscripts that can prove his existence. Now, that being said, that doesn't include any type of literature ever written about them. This is just official documentation that they can truly back up. So, yeah, quite floored because, like, even on top of all that, even on top of, all these people that we hear in history class and, growing up in school, online, all these things that we just see them as such big, bigger than life characters. And yet we have Jesus Christ that has more official manuscripts that prove his existence than all these others combined. Not only that, we've got books that we know, with supposed certainty of accuracy, and we have a fraction of like completed literature from that than we do from the Bible. I'm going to see if I can't find this. So it says that there's over 17 to 1800 known ancient and medieval manuscripts and papyrus fragments of Homer's Iliad. But if you look at the numbers for the Bible, we're looking at 24 to 25,000, so kind of similar manuscripts and fragments. I've actually heard that there was closer to 33,000, but maybe they've updated that number. I don't know. Either way, there are people who believe in the accuracy of Homer's Iliad than the Bible, when if we actually look at the numbers, it doesn't make any sense. Now, I know there are a lot of people out there that say, hey, I don't argue that Jesus Christ lived. A lot of people call him a prophet. So there are some people there's no argumentation over whether he existed or not. I understand that. And I can get behind that a little bit, but just to say he didn't exist doesn't, logically, if you look at it logically, it doesn't make sense. So now that we understand that part, let's dive into this a little bit. But before we get into that, thank you guys so much for tuning back in. Super glad to have you. I'm your host, Shaylee Parker, and this is the Wise Table Podcast. Okay, so to dive in a little bit more about what's going on here and what's brought this up. First of all, the week that I'm recording this is following what a lot of Christians would call Holy Week. So we've just wrapped up with Easter. It's been a really, really fun, amazing week. We had a wonderful service. For those who don't know, I am a worship leader, had a wonderful time with my team. They are incredible. Couldn't do it without them. They are the reason that all of this works out. And so I'm just really honored to be able to serve with some amazing God-fearing people that just love the Lord and love other people too. And so it's humbling to be around such wonderful, salt of the earth people. And so if any of you guys are listening, just know that I really love you. But yeah, it's been a really great week. Easter week is always amazing. Easter Sunday is incredible. We have an incredible service. Not to mention it was my birthday this week. So hey, that was a lot of fun. My hubby treated me very well because he's so wonderful and loving. But yeah, a big part of this podcast episode has really sparked from that. And if we look at the Christian faith, we might believe a lot of things, but there is one thing that this all hinders on, and it is the resurrection of Christ. So, do I think I'm the person with the biggest knowledge base on this? No. But these are some things that I researched that I found interesting. I would encourage you to do your own research too, as always. Like anything that you hear in here, I am just going to put a big fat disclaimer. I still want you to do your own research. Just because I say something, like there's always a chance to mess something up, say something wrong. Sometimes I don't realize that I misspoke on something. And sometimes that's just either I'm really tired, like I'm recording this episode super late and I didn't want to, but like I said, we're being a consistent girly now. Gosh, dang it. So either that, either, I had some bad intel or sources, maybe a human error, like I'll take full responsibility. Maybe I didn't research enough. So if you hear anything, like please do. Go research that yourself. I'm always going to encourage that to you. Make sure that if there is misinformation being spread innocently, like nothing on purpose, but I just want to make sure as myself, and I want to encourage you as well, to be the obstacle in the way of letting that continue as misinformation. And so I'm doing my absolute best here, but of course I'm still human. I still mess up, and there's still a possibility of something getting through, or I have bad intel. So either way, just know this is a free space. I'm going to do my best. And I ask that you also do your best, that if you share information, it's always best, whether it comes from me or anyone else, especially social media, that we do our own research on whatever we share and spread. Good? Okay. So now that we got that out of the way, let's get into a couple of things that I find interesting that I would just say are a large probability that this really happened. Okay, so I shared a post on this and it did rather well on one page, and I'd like to share that. I'd like to share that with other pages, so I think I will. So let's expand on it a little bit. There are some incredible things about the resurrection, and we don't have time for all of it today. I also don't think I don't know, not that it's imposter syndrome. I just don't want to mislead people. So I want to be careful how much I share and make sure that what I do share is of high confidence through competency. So yeah, just having that in the back of your head. Anyway, so we might bounce around just a little bit here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read Matthew 27, at least the first part. So I'll tell you where we stop. But this is a little unfortunate. This is after Judas betrays Jesus. And to start off with a wonderful, warm Friday topic, it's titled Judas Hangs Himself. So sorry, but that's what happened. So here we go. Matthew 27, verse 1. Very early in the morning, the leading priests and the elders of the people met again to lay plans for putting Jesus to death. Then they bound him, led him away, and took him to Pilate, the Roman governor. When Judas, who had betrayed him, realized that Jesus had been condemned to die, he was filled with remorse. So he took the 30 pieces of silver back to the leading priests and elders. I have sinned, he declared, for I have betrayed an innocent man. What do we care? They retorted. That's your problem. Then Judas threw the silver coins down in the temple and went out and hanged himself. Then the leading priests picked up the coins. It wouldn't be right to put this money in the temple treasury, they said, since it was payment for murder. After some discussion, they finally decided to buy the potter's land, and they made it into a cemetery for foreigners. That is why the field is still called the Field of Blood, that fulfilled the prophecy of Jeremiah that says, they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price at which he was valued by the people of Israel, and purchased the potter's field as the Lord directed. Okay, pause. That is 1 through 10 on the verses. So here's what's interesting. Here's a note that I made about this while reading through Matthew. The field paid with Judas's blood money that he threw back into the temple after the leading priests and elders refused it was named, I'm sorry if I butcher this, I'm going to try, Akeldama. I don't know. It's Akeldama. Akeldama, I think, something like that. I looked it up earlier and I can't remember. That is Aramaic for field of blood. That is still current today. It's in Jerusalem, right where it should be. So there's that. That's pretty cool. As stated, it was used as a burial ground for foreigners, which would have been considered poor, or potter's field. And of course, as it states, that fulfills prophecy, which is also really cool because we look at prophecy and we look back in time and go, if we were to hear that prophecy whenever it was spoken in Jeremiah, be like, okay, cool. I don't know, like 30 pieces of silver. It was the price he was valued at by the people of Israel and then used to purchase a field. How does that work? How does that relate to anything? That doesn't make any sense. And until you actually get into the future, whenever prophecy is fulfilled, that's what's so cool about prophecy is the way that God prophesies things. The way that we see prophecy is like a blurred image. And then once we get to the point when it actually happens, all of a sudden it clicks. Like it just makes sense. Everything goes together. And it's not something that you can just fabricate or make up. It's not something like, oh, they wore a t-shirt in the summer. Well, yeah, it's hot, So it's not like, okay, well, I'm not expecting him to wear a coat, but I don't know. I think prophecy can be really cool. And there's a lot of things that we don't understand now. We're not meant to understand now until later. And I think that's prophecy just glorifies God in the most amazing ways because, like I said, we can't predict it. We can't figure it out on our own until it happens. And then we go, oh my gosh, the only way you could have known that is if you were God. So now if we look at verse 11, we get into Jesus's trial. And we'll go ahead and read that. Now Jesus was standing before Pilate, the Roman governor. Are you the king of the Jews? The governor asked him. Jesus replied, you have said it. But when the leading priests and the elders made their accusations against him, Jesus remained silent. Don't you hear all these charges they are bringing against you? Pilate demanded. But Jesus made no response to any of the charges, much to the governor's surprise. Now it was the governor's custom each year during the Passover celebration to release one prisoner to the crowd, anyone that they wanted. This year there was a notorious prisoner, a man named Barabbas. As the crowds gathered before Pilate's house that morning, he asked them, which one do you want me to release to you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called the Messiah? He knew very well that the religious leaders had arrested Jesus out of envy. Written on the wall. Just then, as Pilate was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent him a message. Leave that innocent man alone. I suffered a terrible nightmare about him last night. Meanwhile, the leading priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas to be released and for Jesus to be put to death. So the governor asked again, which of these two do you want me to release to you? The crowd shouted back, Barabbas. Pilate responded, then what should I do with Jesus, who is called the Messiah? They shouted back, crucify him. Why? Pilate demanded. What crime has he committed? But the mob roared even louder, crucify him. Pilate saw that he wasn't getting anywhere and that a riot was developing. So he sent for a bowl of water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, I am innocent of this man's blood. The responsibility is yours. And all the people yelled back, we will take the responsibility for his death, we and our children. So Pilate released Barabbas to them. He ordered Jesus flogged with a lead-tipped whip, then turned him over to the Roman soldiers to be crucified. I do think this is really cool how this is all taking place during the time of Passover, the Passover celebration. And for those who don't know what Passover is, this Passover celebration represented the time where the Israelites were enslaved in Egypt. And Moses kept pleading with Pharaoh to let his people go. Pharaoh refused to let the people go. And so God caused these plagues to happen. And one of I believe it was the last one, the Lord told Moses that he was going to send the angel of death. And in order for his people to be protected, what they would do is they took a lamb and they slaughtered that lamb, and they used the blood of it to put on the door frames of God's people. And that would be a sign to the angel of death to go over that house and pass over that house. And so it came through and killed the firstborn son of every family. And so this Passover, the really cool part about this crucifixion taking place during the Passover celebration is that Jesus became our sacrificial lamb. And it's by his blood that we are healed, that death will pass over us. And that doesn't mean you won't die on this earth. Obviously you do. But we're saved from the death of our sin. And we're saved from what we deserve, which is death. And so you see this correlation between the Passover and Jesus laying down his life for us. So just a really, really cool correlation there. And that's not on accident. That is very purposeful. And that is the entire point. That's the whole point of this. And so those who claim the blood of the Lamb, Jesus, you are spared from that death, spiritual death, and you get to be with him for eternity. And it's just such a wonderful thought, but it's so it's just so unfair. It's unfair that he went through that, so that way I wouldn't have to. Yeah, I know we've heard this a lot to say, life's not fair, and then they say, well, yeah, if I'm glad life's not fair, because if it was, then I'd be the one hanging on the cross. And I think I don't think you can fully grasp the weight of that, but once you can understand what this means, what this meant, we are fully deserving of death. This doesn't make any sense if we're considered good people that, well, I'm a good person. I do good things. I'm not a bad person. Then this doesn't mean anything. If we're such great people that are just perfect, then this means absolutely nothing. But whenever we look at it and go, hey, we're broken people deserving of death, that there is no such thing as a good person. We're all sinful. We're all you don't think so? You don't? Okay. Kids are great. They are what we see in the eyes of society and the law as the innocent, right? And what are children the best at, typically? Greed. Me, me, me. Right? And pride and greed, those things get in the way. And if you let a child have whatever they want, it just grows and festers. It doesn't get better, right? We have to discipline them. We have to parent them, because if you just let them get away with anything and everything, they become horrible people. Really, honestly, they do. They're greedy. They're malicious. They have no care or sympathy for people. Sometimes you can get away with kids just being naturally really big hearts, but there is a reason why it's important to parent children, discipline children, because we'd all turn out like greedy little monsters that turn into massive greedy monsters, all grown up and completely uncontrollable, if we don't have any kind of structure. So that being said, if we're left to our own vices, we're really not that great. And once we understand that we're not internally good, like you can be a decent person, you can be kind, but that doesn't save you. That doesn't equate to anything. And I'm sorry if that sounds really harsh and straightforward, but that is the truth. I mean, that's not a replacement for what we truly need, because it doesn't matter how hard you try. Like the Bible says that, without him, without Jesus being that filter for us, without taking that place, we are, even at our best, like filthy rags. And this is, especially for my ladies listening, you get it? Like, guys, if you're listening, I'm sorry, this is a little graphic, but it's something we all need to hear. If you haven't heard this before, if you actually look at what they mean by these filthy rags in more direct translation, it actually refers to period rags. Because back then they obviously didn't have women's hygiene. And so they would kind of go away off their own, or they would stay in their homes as they went through their cycle. And because they didn't have these things, they would use rags. And so even at your best, even at my best, that's what we are. These disgusting, filthy rags that have no chance at being these pristine white linen cloth that we want to be. And that, I don't know, it's crucial that we understand the full weight of our sin. And I heard somebody talk about a professor. He was talking about the weight of sin. While we're on this topic for just a moment, he's talking about the weight of sin. And one of his students started to mock him, saying, what? Oh, weight of sin. Oh, you can feel the weight of sin. Well, what does it feel like? 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 100 pounds. I don't feel the weight of anything whenever I, do something I shouldn't. I don't feel something crushing on me. And the professor simply replied back with, what is weight to a corpse? Without Jesus, we're spiritually dead. And so we can't feel the full weight of that. But the closer you get to Jesus, the more you realize how messed up you are. And that might sound, well, I know it sounds, because I've been there. I've been there in your shoes, if this is you, where that feels extremely intimidating and a reason why you don't want to get close to him. You've already had a lot of trust issues with other people, but this is different. Yes, the closer you get to something so holy, you see in comparison how messed up you really are. But the great and wonderful part is he wants you close with him. And in order for you to be even closer, he sent his only son to be betrayed, mocked, scorned, torn apart, given 39 lashes with a metal tipped, I believe it's called the cat of nine tails. Like they ripped apart his body with 39 lashes, because apparently 40 was known to kill a man. I'm sorry if a lot of this emotion is hard for some of you, or maybe really different than our typical fun-loving podcasts, but this isn't something that's easy to glaze over. But God sent his only son, who, although he pleaded with God to take that responsibility from him, to take that cup from him, when the Lord didn't allow that and didn't give him a way out, he still obeyed for us. He still laid down his life for us, so that way we might be saved, because we have the free will to choose. And I'm glad to say that I have chosen to give my life to Christ because he gave his for mine. And yeah, that's really what this is all about, isn't it? So I really meant to talk more about the resurrection, evidence towards it. There's some incredible and fascinating points to all this. A couple of them that I have. We can try to jump out, go to something a little cool and positive so I can quit crying. But the first thing that happened was after the resurrection, one thing, there's a lot that happens here, like a lot. But just to breeze over some things, one of the first things that's really cool is the first witness to Jesus's resurrection was a woman. We have to remember whenever we're reading the Bible, whenever we're going through this text, we have to keep some things in context, right? That's the big thing, because there are going to be a lot of things that we gloss over that don't make any sense to us. And I want to encourage you, like if you read something and you go, I wonder why that is, or why is it worded that way, or why did they include that detail? I do that a lot. I feel like that's one thing where it's not like something I'm just like, okay, whatever, like doesn't seem anything out of the norm or ordinary. No, it's like that's an interesting detail to include. Okay, don't ignore that. Dive a little deeper, because oftentimes that little detail, like if you go and research that and you figure out why that was put there, what was the significance of it, oh my gosh, it changes everything. It changes your perspective. It changes the it's incredible. Context is king. It's amazing. So in biblical times, women's witness didn't hold a lot of legal weight. So understanding that, if early Christians wanted to convince people of something that didn't really happen, and they would have written this out as a story and not fact, if they wanted this to be accepted by more people, they would have written it differently and made a man the witness if this wasn't true. But it was. I'm just going to go ahead and give you a spoiler alert. But having a woman as a first witness, we can't ignore that. That's massive. Okay, so that's one thing. All right, that's one thing. But the thing we get after that is there are another like 500 witnesses that see Jesus after the resurrection. So really cool there. Not to mention, following that point, 10 out of the 12 disciples died a martyr. So that excludes Judas, obviously, his unfortunate demise. And then John, his demise is actually never listed. So we kind of have a belief that he didn't die a martyr. All the other ones that died a martyr were listed. So 10 out of the 12 died a martyr. And one thing that we know for sure is that people don't die for a lie, especially not all of them, like relatively all of them. You know, if we're looking at 10 out of the 11 that could have spilled beans on anything, they did not. And they suffered miserable deaths, being crucified upside down, being stoned, being beheaded, all these crazy things. And worse, like look them up. It's wild. So there's no way these guys would have went through this if it wasn't true. And they knew that if they, this is also wild, they knew that if they shared in the suffering of Christ, they would also get to share in the reward of Christ. So super excited to meet those guys later. Whenever my time comes. But that's just a couple things. I was listening more about the Shroud of Turin. And if you haven't looked into that, please do. I mean, it's new stuff to me, but I guess this has been going on for like a while. If you don't know what that is, I'm going to show a picture of it right now. This is the shroud. The supposed linen that was wrapped around Jesus after his crucifixion. And it is absolutely flippin' mind-blowing. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. I haven't completed it yet, but I'm so excited to finish this. I've been listening to Josh Howerton's podcast, the Live Free podcast from Lake Point. And oh my gosh, it's incredible. It's the Shroud of Turin episode with Dr. Jeremiah J. Johnston, and it is flipping mind-blowing. I mean, absolutely nuts. Did you know there's I think there is some 50-something, 56, 50 8 different types of pollen in the Shroud of Turin. 36 of them were all from Jerusalem, with like that they knew would blossom in the springtime in that exact area. And all the other ones were pollen from every other place it's been on exhibit at. What? They can't replicate any of it. We don't have the technology to replicate this. It's just absolutely nuts. It's so cool. I'll have to put in a link to this, and you guys can just listen to that, because this episode is in no comparison to what this dude just dumps about it. And it's absolutely not. I mean, he's so competent in what he talks about. It's just unreal. So I'd encourage you to listen to that after this episode. But yeah, just something for you guys to walk away with today. I think this is another short episode, but I'm glad to be able to have a platform to share this on. And I'm really glad that you guys are able to listen to it. And I don't know, I just want to encourage you guys this week. I did have it laid on my heart that I should encourage you guys and tell you that whenever you have a call in your life, I don't know, this is just kind of coming out of left field, but whenever you have a call in your life, the enemy will attack it. Not some calls, not sometimes. If you have a call in your life and you're doing what you should be doing, what God has called you to do, you are going to have some pushback. You are going to have some friction. And if you don't have friction, it might be because you're going in the way the enemy wants you to go. And that's not the case for everything. Just because you're not getting pushback on something does not mean it's for the enemy. But I just want to encourage you guys that just because you are getting pushback, just because you are feeling any type of fear or massive obstacle in your way that is causing a lot of harm or damage or fill in the blank. Like if the enemy knows he can reach you through your job, through your family, through your kids, through your finances, whatever, he's going to touch on that. He's going to come after you. But I want to encourage you to keep fighting the good fight, put on that armor, read this bad boy that's sitting over here on the desk, the Bible. The Bible says that your faith comes from hearing the message. The message comes from reading the word, hearing the word. So if we want to grow our faith, if we want to become stronger, if we want to become more resilient, if we want to be able to defeat the enemy, if we want to be able to have peace in the middle of a storm, that does not come because we've decided to have a spa night. It doesn't come because, oh, I just need to take another vacation. It doesn't, like, you can't run from that. You can't. There is no vacation. There is no plane ride that could take you far enough away to help you escape things that only God can help you escape. It is time to stop trying to fill God-sized holes with insignificant things. Money, time, travel, drugs, alcohol, sex, any of it. And I want you to know that if you have used those vices before, if you have run to those things before, you're not alone. This isn't some judgment call to say shame on you for doing any of those things. But now that you know better, now that you've heard this, ignorance is something that can only be claimed once. There is no more ignorance. If you feel scared, if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel stressed, if you feel unsure, if you feel distraught, and you just want satisfying peace, get into the Word. Read it, Christian or not. Find a Bible. Read a Bible. Go to a library. Go visit a church. They'll let you borrow a Bible. I guarantee you got a friend or a friend's grandma that has a good old Mimi Bible, okay? You pull out that Mimi Bible. That sucker is going to be torn, ripped, got highlighter written all over it, a lot of smudged pen marks, and that sucker is anointed. And it's because of the Word. It's the Word, not because it's Mimi's. But just get into the Word this week. As always, I'm preaching to myself. I've been slacking. My goal is to read through the entire Bible. I've been slacking the last couple weeks. Well, honestly, I just haven't really been plowing through it as much as I thought I would since I decided to start doing that. Sad. But that's me just being completely transparent. I want to stay accountable to it. I also want to be open and honest about it. Because I know that, hey, this is not a place of judgment. It is a place of accountability, though. a lack of judgment does not mean there's no accountability. And so we got to be careful that we don't continue to use that grace card too much. It's a wonderful thing. God has wonderful, abounding grace. But it's also important for us to stay sharp, and to make the decision to shut things off. Like Alex Hermosi has a line that says, "A sign of maturity, separating how you feel from how you act." So good. While we're on the quotes, though, I did not start this episode with a quote. I'm so sorry. We'll do another one actually from Alex Hermosi, I believe tweeted or X'd. How do we say that now? He said, quote, "Passion comes from the Latin passio, which means suffering and endurance. So people think that following your passion means doing something that you love when it really means finding something that you are willing to suffer for." I found my passion in Christ. So I guess today's question is, what are you willing to suffer for? The disciples were willing to suffer a large part of their lives, to die a martyr's death in horrific ways. Most of us find suffering to be driving our car or truck in the summer without any AC. Weak sauce. I mean, that's me. Don't get me wrong. It's me. But I guess, yeah, what is it that you are passionate about, so much so that you're willing to endure suffering for it? Go ahead and put it in the comments. What are you guys willing to suffer for? Passio. All right, well, let's wrap it up like usual. God, I just thank you so much for my listener today. God, I thank you for my friend. I thank you for just the heart that they have, God, and I just pray that you encourage them and love on them tremendously this week, God. I just pray that you bless them. God, help them to walk in the ways that you want them to walk, God, and I just pray that you open their hearts, open their minds, Jesus. God, I pray that you give them the courage. God, I pray that you give them the desire to dive deep into your word, God, to get to know you more, to love you more. God, I pray that if they're going through a hard time, if they are enduring suffering, God, that I just pray that you lift them up. God, I pray that any connection that they have that do not know you, God, I pray that you give them the courage to minister to those family members, friends, coworkers, anyone that they know, God. And I just pray that you give them the courage to step out in boldness, whether it's to start new chapters, make new moves, or to expand in the chapter that they're already in. God, I just pray that in a world where hearts grow cold and hard after going through suffering, God, that theirs become even softer, that they love more, that they smile more. But most importantly, God, I pray that they lean on you and understand that the only way to recover from these things, to bounce back, to keep moving forward, is focus on you. I just pray shalom, peace over them and their lives and their family, God. And I just pray that they put you in the center of it all, when it's good, when it's bad, and when it's ugly. God, most importantly, I thank you for sending your only son to suffer and die for us, to go through all these horrible things so that way we wouldn't have to, so that way we would be able to be close with you again in the way that you intended. God, I just pray that if there's anyone listening to this podcast today that has not given their life to you, God, that they do right now, that they ask you into their hearts, Jesus. God, we thank you and we praise you and we love you. In your holy, wonderful, precious name, amen. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I just want you to know how much of a pleasure and honor it is to have you a part of the TWT Club. If this episode really resonated with you, if God spoke to you through this episode, I just want you to know how much I appreciate your support of this show. I appreciate you sharing it with friends that you know might be able to relate to this or might need to hear something in this podcast, or maybe you just want to share it with them because you love them. And that's the biggest goal that I have for this podcast, is to reach more people with the love of Christ. Not because of me, but because I just want to be a vessel for him and what he has to share. And I just pray that he does speak through this podcast to the people who need it most. And so if there's somebody that you feel that might need to have that extra boost today, share it with them, because this is a wonderful, wonderful place, a community that is being built for people like you and the people around you. So hope you guys have a great Friday, a fantastic weekend, and I'll see you next week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.